All right, hello everyone. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start the first demonstration for Project 1. Project 1 is an exploration of line, and I know that sounds like a lot of fun. It's a great exercise, really drawing, illustration, painting, all of it is about muscle memory. And so this practice really helps to develop that skill set. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm in my sketchbook now because I'm going to just do some sketch examples, and you guys will be working in your sketchbook for most of the first day we're doing this project, just to build up that dexterity. So these sketches are going to be 3.5 inches by 5 inches, and we want to make sure that 3.5 by 5 inches, because they're going to be the same size as what we're going to be doing with our final. So this paper is 9 inches by 12 inches, plus or minus a little bit, same as our Bristol paper. So I'm going to come in and kind of mark out a grid, and this is good practice for it's good practice for your final one. So getting used to measuring, marking. So I'm marking 4.5 inches because 4.5 divided by 2 is 9. And I'm going to do the same mark down below. Okay. And then just go from one point to the other. And then I'm going to do the same, dividing the space in half again. So I'm going to go 6 inches, put a little mark, go 6 inches over here, put a little mark. Okay, so that gives us the space divided up. And then I'm going to go and make a about a half-inch border. So I'm going to mark 1/4 of an inch here, 3/4 of an inch here, placing the middle right there. Okay, then we'll come down below, do the same, 1/4 of an inch this way, and 1/4 of an inch that way, line them up. You don't have to be as perfect with this one as you're going to want to be with the final one. So it's good to just practice here. Yeah, you can see that those aren't the same width. Okay. All right, so that gives us about the cell size that we're going to use in here. You can erase out the extra if you want to, but since this is just the sketchbook, I think it'll be all right. Okay, so next step is to understand what we're doing in each one of these cells. So cell 1 is going to be one pen, continuous line. Then this cell is going to be multiple line weights. So that means using all the different thicknesses of pen you've got. And then we've got down here, pencil and pen. To use the different textures and properties of pen to make pen and pencil together. And this one is going to be crosshatch. This one is going to be using multiple lines. This one is going to be a continuous line drawing. And this one is going to be a object. So you're going to draw some sort of an object using hatching. So What we're going to use for our project is just a cloth. And you can hang it up on a wall, pin it to something, or drape it in an interesting fashion. And we're going to use that as our guide. Okay, so the first one is continuous continuous contour. And I'm also looking at this and thinking, okay, these are all portrait, and that's the way we're going to do it. We're doing portraits. So maybe this orientation isn't the best for portrait. Maybe I'll rotate it so that I've got something that fits my space a little bit better. And I'm going to take out one pen, and you're going to do this with pen, and you can do any thickness you want. I'll do 0.3, actually 0.5, so it's a little easier to see for you guys. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the shape of this object and try to kind of mentally picture where it's going to sit in the composition. Okay, so we're going to start at one point. Think about what point you'd like to start at, and then just kind of keep the pen moving. Don't lift up, even if you feel like, oh, I didn't come to the right spot. You're really just studying the shape. Not picking up your pen at all. There's some great YouTube videos of Picasso drawing like this that are really, I think, enlightening to look at, because it shows you that you can develop this skill. So that's kind of an example. That's my first one, right? So I might keep going, and I did pick up my pen, which I'm not supposed to, so I'm going to start back right where I was and try to kind of come in with some more definition here. And it's about looking at the object, seeing the form, and trying to have that muscle memory. And I'm also noticing that my lines are mostly organic. You want to mix them more with straight, rigid lines, organic lines, rigid lines, and organic lines as you're moving. So think about the flow of the pen over the paper and how you're making your arcs. Are they clean arcs or are they dirty arcs? So you'll develop that muscle memory. And I would just keep, either do all of these as continuous cross contour as practice, but I'm going to do one of each so that you guys know exactly what it is you're practicing. So you're not going to go with your first one, of course. This is all just developing that muscle memory. All right, so now we've got the second one, which is about multiple lines. So I'm going to draw the same composition. I mean, if you'd like, you can change it. You can kind of play with that. But one thing that's nice about keeping the same composition is you're practicing seeing the form. The more you look at the object, the better you will see it. So by changing the composition, you erase that muscle memory that you've been developing in previous iterations. Okay, so I'm going to start with my thinnest pen, and I'm going to draw. I can pick up my pen, I'm just going to, but I don't want to be too sketchy. I'm trying to be kind of illustrative. So I'm going to kind of try to draw this shape. And usually when you're sketching, you try to draw like the whole shape first. This is much more difficult because you're trying to keep the composition square using simple lines. Okay. This is my thinnest line, so I can kind of play with it a little bit before I move into thicker lines. Just trying to define some of the shape here. Okay, and then when you switch to thicker, usually I think of thicker lines as being closer to you, so it gives you that sense of of presence in the front. And you can think of this almost like Sumi ink, where you've got different line thicknesses that are not just made by the pen, but also by going over the lines and trying to get them to be a little bit more clear. And I'm not trying to hatch, I'm just marking where I'm going to thicken this line. Hatching is next time, so. I would just keep refining this too, because you know your composition can be tweaked, and it doesn't have to be a direct representation. It's hard for me to draw without like moving my head a lot. All right, so you can see this line, the thickness of it kind of going around and curving through the piece. And you're basically going to use thicker lines and thinner lines to define the shape using an undulating kind of flow to the linear elements. So keep going with that. Keep practicing getting the line's thickness and movement to represent the object. All right. The next one is going to be a little bit more sketchy. So you're going to use pencil and pen, which is nice because pencil you can erase. So you can start off by sketching out the whole composition. So how much space is it taking up? How big is this? I can refine it back down again to make sure that it is taking up the right amount of space. Scale is all right. And then I'm going to kind of pattern in where the lights and darks are with the pencil. So I can kind of see the value range a little bit. We're not using charcoal or anything. We're not smudging the lines. It's all about etching with the pencil into the paper to start with. And then we come back with pen. We solidify our shape, maybe using a combination of contour lines. And then when I talk about implied lines will be spaces where there's light hitting it. And so you can create implied lines by cross-hatching on one side, cross-hatching on the other side. That's hatching, and then cross it to cross-hatch. And see, this space right here becomes an implied line where the hatch is showing the volume and then removing volume and then picking up the volume again on the other side. And you can use various thicknesses of pen, or pen and pencil together, various hardnesses, HB for a little bit more darker values. So yeah, this one is going to be hatching too. So we've got so far continuous line, using varied line thicknesses to represent the form. Mixture of pencil, pen, line widths, line thicknesses, having implied lines where shadow and light meet. And then the final one is going to be using all of these properties of line, similar to how you did this one, to draw an object. It could be any object you want it to be. It could be this pair of pliers. It could be a cup, roll of tape. I recommend it being a relatively simple object, and you can change the object as you're sketching several times. And you're going to do about 5 of these sketch pages before you start doing the final piece. And then on a full scale sheet of paper, which will still have the 1/4 inch border around it, you're going to do a sketch using any form of line you desire. It could be simple animated illustrative lines, it can be cross-hatching, whatever style you would like to use, as long as you're just using line. No smudging, no charcoal, it's got to just be line. And you can draw a scene from your imagination as long as you're also referencing physical objects. You can draw objects that you have lying around in a still life. Basically, I want you to explore the factors of line that you enjoy best and put it in a context that you're interested in. So it could be anything. And if you don't know what to draw, just draw something random. Okay, so we're gonna keep practicing in the sketchbook, keep drawing pretty much the first day. The next tutorial will be about setting up your Bristol paper and getting everything in the proper cells, cutting and preparing to mount on mat board. All right, that'll do it for now. Thank you.